So what's a good technique for late winter, say very early spring, for catching bass when the water is around 43, 45 degrees? The jerk bait usually comes through. Stick around and we'll talk about some techniques to catch fish on a jerk bait.
Shane Flynn Outdoors, brought to you by Bent Rod Fishing. Get bent, stay bent.
What a big girl! So hey everybody, thanks for stopping back by the channel. I came out today. We had a pretty warm day. The air temperature's up in the high 50s, but the water temperature's down around, right now it's just hit 45 degrees, and it's been, the sun's been up most of the day. But the bass have been tough to get a bite on. I've been able to get a few bites on a jerk bait today. Not a lot of catches. Actually, I hooked up a lot of fish, only put 2 in the boat, which you'll see in the video here. Maybe just put 1 on there. But what I want to talk about is techniques to catch fish when the water is this water temperature and the bass are just lackadaisical. The bites today, I couldn't tell the difference between getting a strike from a fish or catching a stick. I would reel up, think I had a stick, have a bass. I'd reel up, think I have a bass, have a stick. So the bass weren't really coming up and just grabbing onto the bait. It was just all of a sudden the line got heavy like I snagged a stick, and it either, was a 50-50, a stick or a bass. So let me just show you a couple techniques that I was using today to try and get fish when the water temperature is cold. And one of the keys is trying to keep your bait presentation somewhat slow. Now I'm using about a 10, this is a Rapala 11 suspending jerk bait. There's all kinds of different brands out there. I was using a Kevin Van Dam earlier in a different color. But I like to get my suspending jerk baits from 11 to 13 feet. You can throw them up shallow, reel them slow, and then get them deeper as you get out in deeper water. Or if you're going across points or things like that, you can get them down pretty quick to 10 or 11 feet. 12-pound test line is what I prefer, and that's what I'm throwing on a bait caster today. So a couple techniques. The first one I'll talk to you about is called the sweep and pause technique. Let me show you what that looks like. So the sweep and pause technique is pretty simple. You throw it out as far as you can. I'm throwing across the rocky point here. Rocks are important in the winter. They can warm up. Bass like to get around rocks. And as soon as it hits the water, I give it a long, hard sweep. Just like that, I let it pause. I'll reel my slack up, let that pause, 5-6 seconds. Another big sweep. And when you do that sweep, the bait dives a little bit deeper to the depth that it'll go. If it's suspending, it'll stay down at that depth. It may rise just a tiny bit, but not much. Usually your suspending jerk bait stays where it is designed to be at. Then another pause, a sweep, and then a pause. Reeling my slack back up. So sweep, pause, all the way back into the boat. Sweep and pause. Now a lot of times you will feel the fish during the pause. You may feel a bump, or when you go to get your next sweep, you'll feel the weight of the fish on there just set the hook. Well, that sweep is going to help you set the hook. But it's a good technique. A lot of time that pause, they will hit it on the pause, but I will tell you one of the things that concerns me in the winter, when I do that pause, and this happened to me 3 or 4 times a day, I got the bite on the pause. And when I went to go sweep it, it felt like a stick. And I didn't really set the hook, and then I get it halfway to the boat and it's a bass. And actually one of the bass were 5 or 6 pounds. So I missed a nice bass using the sweep and pause technique. So just be cognizant when you're doing that. If you get that bite on a pause and these bass are lethargic like they are today, it's sometimes hard to feel that bump on the pause. So just be prepared. All right, the second technique I want to talk to you about is one that I like to use when I throw up shallow and don't want to get too deep quickly. And as soon as the bait hits the water, I give it a quick couple of little jerks like that. A couple twitches, let it pause. Again, 4 or 5 seconds. Keeping it slow, and then a couple of twitches. Some people like to do 1, 2, 3 twitches. You can mix it up however you want, but just hit the twitches, especially if you're fishing a little bit shallower, you're not trying to get that jerk bait to go deep. These twitches and pauses will help you, drive that, get those bass to come here and strike that jerk bait. So a couple twitches, pause. It's almost like the sweep and pause, but with the twitches, gives a little bit more action, and that sweep, gets that jerk bait deep. These twitches keep it 4, 5, 6 feet versus 8, 10 feet. So it's more of a shallow water technique versus deep water. You can mix it up. I like to mix it up. I've mixed the techniques. I'll sweep and then give it a couple twitches. But I think the key for wintertime jerk baiting and getting those bites, and I'm telling you this today, and I've missed so many fish. I think I'm a little rusty on top of everything. It's just the first time I've been out this long this year, but that pause is key. The pause lets the fish get time when they're not really active to come up and get on that bait. So, you know, sometimes you can throw right on top of them, you're gonna hook them. But sometimes that pause helps. A lot of times in the wintertime, that pause drives those fish up to come up and inspect and jump on that jerk bait. So those are just a couple techniques that I use. This time of year, again, that water temperature today was 43 to 45 degrees. Didn't have a lot of wind, so jerk bait really comes in handy. Whatever color you use for your lake, I usually use more of a natural Tennessee shad color. In this lake, usually I have 10 to 12 foot of clarity in this lake, but for some reason, this lake was down, and they pumped a lot of water back from the river into it, and the water's pretty murky, so I went to a fire tiger color today, and that's what I got my strikes on. But match the bait fish to your lake on your jerk bait, and you'll do pretty well. So, hey, thanks for stopping by. Sorry, not a lot of catching. Wanted to talk about techniques today. I hope that if you get out there, the water temperature is in this area, this technique will help you catch some bass. So until next time, tight lines and good luck fishing. Finally, nice bass.